Chapter 5 The Parliament of Religions. On Monday, September 11, 1893, the Parliament of Religions opened its deliberations with due solemnity. This great meeting was an adjunct of the World's Columbian Exposition, which had been organized to celebrate the 400th anniversary of the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus. One of the main goals of the exposition was to disseminate knowledge of the progress and enlightenment brought about in the world by Western savants, and especially through physical science and technology. But as religion forms a vital factor in human culture, it had been decided to organize a parliament of religions in conjunction with the exposition. Dr. Burroughs, in his History of the Parliament of Religions, writes, "Since faith in a divine power to whom men believe they owe service and worship has been like the sun, a life-giving, fructifying potency in man's intellectual and moral development. Since religion lies at the back of Hindu literature with its marvelous and mystic developments, of the European art, whether in the form of Grecian statues or Gothic cathedrals, and of American liberty and the recent uprisings of men on behalf of a juster social condition. And since it is as clear as light that the religion of Christ has led to many of the chief and noblest developments of our modern civilization, it did not appear that religion, any more than education, art, or electricity, should be excluded from the Columbian Exposition. It is not altogether improbable that some of the more enthusiastic Christian theologians among the promoters of the Parliament thought that the Parliament would give them an opportunity to prove the superiority of Christianity, professed by the vast majority of the people of the progressive West, over the other face of the world. Much later, Swami Vivekananda said in one of his jocular moods that the Divine Mother herself willed the Parliament in order to give him an opportunity to present the eternal religion, the Sanatana Dharma of the Hindus, before the world at large, and that the stage was set for him to play his important role, everything else being incidental. The appropriateness of this remark can be appreciated now, six decades later, in the 1940s, after the great event, from the fact that whereas all else that was said and discussed at the Parliament has been forgotten, what Vivekananda preached is still cherished in America, and the movement inaugurated by him has endeared itself to American hearts. To quote the words of the Honorable Mr. Merwin Marie Snell, "One of the chief advantages has been in the great lessons which it has taught the Christian world, especially the people of the United States, namely that there are other religions more venerable than Christianity, which surpass it in philosophical depth, in spiritual intensity, in independent vigor of thought, and in breadth and sincerity of human sympathy, while at the same time not yielding to it a single hair's breadth in ethical beauty and efficiency." So said the president of the scientific section of the Parliament. At 10 a.m., the Parliament opened. In it, every form of organized religious belief, as professed among 1,200 millions of people, was represented. Among the non-Christian groups could be counted Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Shintoism, Mohammedanism, and Mazdaism. The special hall and the huge gallery of the Art Palace were packed with 7,000 people, men and women representing the culture of the United States. The official delegates marched in a grand procession to the platform, and in the center, in his scarlet robe sat Cardinal Gibbons, the highest prelate of the Roman Catholic Church in the Western Hemisphere. He occupied a chair of state and opened the meeting with a prayer. On his left and right were grouped the Oriental delegates, Pratap Chandra Muzadar of the Calcutta Brahmo Samaj and Nagarkar of Bombay, Dharmapala representing the Ceylon Buddhists, now Sri Lanka, Gandhi representing the Jains, Chakravarti and Annie Besant of the Theosophical Society. With them sat Swami Vivekananda, who represented no particular sect, but the universal religion of the Vedas, and who spoke, as will presently be seen, for the religious aspiration of all humanity. The Swami's gorgeous robe, large yellow turban, bronze complexion, and fine features stood out prominently on the platform and drew everybody's notice. In numerical order, the Swami's position was number 31. The delegates arose one by one and read prepared speeches, but the Hindu sannyasin was totally unprepared. He had never before addressed such an assembly. When he was asked to give his message, he was seized with stage fright at first and requested the chairman to call on him a little later. Several times he postponed the summons. As he admitted later, "Of course, my heart was fluttering and my tongue nearly dried up. I was so nervous that I could not venture to speak in the morning session." At last he came to the rostrum, and Dr. Barrows introduced him. Bowing to Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, he addressed the audience as "Sisters and Brothers of America." Instantly, thousands arose in their seats and gave him a loud applause. They were deeply moved to see at last a man who discarded formal words and spoke to them with the natural and candid warmth of a brother. It took a full 2 minutes before the tumult subsided, and the Swami began his speech by thanking the youngest of the nations in the name of the most ancient monastic order in the world, the Vedic order of sannyasins. The keynote of his address was the universal toleration and acceptance. He told the audience how India, even in olden times, had given shelter to religious refugees of other lands. For instance, the Israelites and the Zoroastrians. And he quoted from the scriptures the following 2 passages, revealing the Hindu spirit of toleration. As different streams, having their sources in different places, all mingle their water in the sea, so, O Lord, the different paths which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to Thee. Whosoever comes to me, through whatsoever form, I reach him. All men are struggling through many paths, which in the end lead to me. In conclusion, he pleaded for the quick termination of sectarianism, bigotry, and fanaticism. The response was deafening applause. It appeared that the whole audience had been patiently awaiting this message of religious harmony. A Jewish intellectual remarked to the present writer years later that after hearing Vivekananda, he realized for the first time that his own religion, Judaism, was true, and that the Swami had addressed his words on behalf of not only his religion, but all religions of the world. Whereas every one of the other delegates had spoken for his own ideal or his own sect, the Swami had spoken about God, who, as the ultimate goal of all faiths, is their inmost essence. And he had learnt that truth at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna, who had taught incessantly from his own direct experience that all religions are but so many paths to reach the same goal. The Swami gave utterance to the yearning of the modern world to break down the barriers of caste, color, and creed, and to fuse all people into one humanity. Not a word of condemnation for any faith, however crude or irrational, fell from his lips. He did not believe that this religion or that religion was true in this or that respect. To him, all religions were equally effective paths to lead their respective devotees with diverse tastes and temperaments to the same goal of perfection. Years before, young Narendra had condemned before his master, in his neophyte zeal, a questionable sect that indulged in immoral practices in the name of religion. And Ramakrishna had mildly rebuked him, saying, "Why should you criticize those people? Their way, too, ultimately leads to God. There are many doors to enter a mansion. The scavenger comes in by the back door, but you need not use it." How prophetic were the Master's words that his Naren would one day shake the world. Mrs. S.K. Blodgett, who later became the Swami's hostess in Los Angeles, said about her impressions of the Parliament, "I was at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893. When that young man got up and said, 'Sisters and brothers of America,' 7,000 people arose to their feet as a tribute to something they knew not what. When it was over, I saw scores of women walking over the benches to get near him, and I said to myself, 'Well, my lad, if you can resist that onslaught, you are indeed a god.'"